They say Ayat Kursi protects you, but what if I told you it does far more than that? What if every word of this verse holds a secret power so profound, most people will never experience it in their lifetime? Ibn Arabi, the great Sufi master, revealed that within this verse lies a hidden path, one that awakens your soul, shields you from the unseen, and guides you closer to Allah than you ever imagined. Tonight, we will uncover 7 signs that appear when its secret power begins to move through your life, and if you pay attention, you may start to notice them in yourself. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Ayat Kursi is not just a verse to recite. It is a living, breathing key to the throne of Allah." End quote. Ibn Arabi often wrote that before the light of divine knowledge enters the heart, Allah first wraps His servant in silence. This silence is not emptiness, it is preparation. When you begin to recite Ayat Kursi consistently, something inside you starts to shift. The noise of your thoughts, the endless chatter of the world, the inner storms that never seem to stop, all of it begins to fade. You find yourself pausing before you react, breathing before you speak, and sensing a strange stillness inside moments of chaos. That stillness is not coincidence, it is a sign. It is the first whisper of Allah's protection forming around you. The Sufis say the soul can only hear the divine when it becomes quiet enough to listen. Ayat Kursi carries a vibration that silences the ego and awakens the spirit. As the words settle in your heart, Allahu la ilaha illahu, Al-Hayyul Qayyum, you are reminded that everything else depends on Him. The verse begins to draw your attention inward, away from the noise of creation and toward the presence that never sleeps or forgets. Ibn Arabi described this as the stage of inner stillness, where the seeker begins to feel watched, guarded, and loved by the one who owns the throne and all within it. In that silence, you are not alone. You are standing at the edge of His light, and that is where transformation quietly begins. There comes a time, often quietly and without warning, when your nights no longer belong to sleep. You find yourself waking before dawn, not out of duty, but out of yearning. Something unseen pulls you from your bed, urging you to sit in stillness and whisper Ayat Kursi into the darkness. Ibn Arabi called this the secret invitation, a moment when Allah Himself calls the servant by name. It is not a voice that you hear with your ears, it is a movement of the heart that cannot be explained. You might not understand why you suddenly crave solitude, why the world feels heavy, yet the silence of the night feels like home. But this is one of the first signs that Ayatul Kursi has begun to awaken something within you. When you recite it during the quiet hours, you align yourself with the rhythm of the unseen, a rhythm where angels descend, prayers rise, and hearts are purified. The verse becomes a bridge between your limited self and the limitless presence of the divine. Ibn Arabi wrote that when the soul responds to this call, it begins to remember its true nature. The pull you feel is not random, it is your soul recognizing its source. The night becomes a meeting place, a sacred conversation between you and the one who never sleeps. Those who answer this call discover that what they thought was rest and sleep is nothing compared to the peace that comes from standing before Allah in silence. One of the most mysterious effects of Ayat Kursi, according to Ibn Arabi, is the way it weaves a divine shield around the believer, an unseen protection that words cannot measure. When you make this verse part of your daily rhythm, you begin to notice that danger seems to pass by without touching you, that moments of harm dissolve before they reach your doorstep. Sometimes it is as simple as missing a car by seconds, or being spared from a decision that would have broken you. Ibn Arabi taught that this is not coincidence but divine orchestration. The verse carries within it the reality of Allah's guardianship, His constant awareness over all things. Neither slumber nor sleep overtakes Him, it says. And those who hold this truth in their hearts become reflections of that divine vigilance. You may never see the angels that surround you, but you will feel their nearness in the calm that follows fear, in the sudden ease that replaces panic. The world will still test you, but something invisible will keep you from collapsing. This is the unseen shield, the mark of a soul that has entrusted its safety to the one who owns the heavens and the earth. Ibn Arabi wrote that when Kursi becomes alive within a person, their steps are guided and their path illuminated. For they walk beneath the throne itself. That is why the believer who recites it doesn't just survive the storm, they walk through it untouched, guarded by a power no eye can see. When the light of Kursi truly begins to settle inside a person, something profound happens that Ibn Arabi described as Sharh al-Sadr, the expansion of the chest. It is not a physical widening, but a spiritual unfolding, a moment when the heart begins to breathe again after years of tightness. You may not notice it at first. It starts as a subtle ease within, a quiet sense that the weight you have carried for so long is beginning to lift. The worries that once consumed your thoughts start to lose their sharpness, and the emotions that used to control you begin to soften. It feels as though a hidden door inside your heart has been opened, and fresh air is finally moving through your soul. Ibn Arabi said that every verse of the Quran carries a rhythm that echoes through the unseen world, and Kursi holds one of the most powerful frequencies of all. Its words align the human soul with the order of creation itself. When you repeat, Allahu la ilaha illahu, al-hayyul qayyum, you are not simply speaking Arabic syllables. You are declaring the eternal truth that sustains every atom in existence. The chest expands because the heart recognizes this truth as its original home. Every fear that once felt overwhelming begins to dissolve in the presence of a greater certainty. That nothing happens without His knowledge. That nothing escapes His care. You realize that the world does not rest on your shoulders, it rests upon His throne. For the seeker, this expansion marks a turning point. You no longer view your pain as punishment, but as purification. The difficulties you once resisted now appear as lessons in disguise, sent to stretch your heart until it can hold more light. Ibn Arabi wrote that when the divine wants to raise a servant, He first widens their heart so it can carry what is coming. The tightness you once felt was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to prepare you for depth. Ayat Kursi works in the same way. With every recitation, it clears a space inside you for peace to descend. Over time, you start to notice that anger no longer burns as fiercely, that sadness no longer feels endless. You breathe through moments that would have broken you before, and you sense that something vast now lives where anxiety once did. In this state of expansion, prayer feels different. It no longer feels like a ritual you perform, but like a conversation you belong in. Your connection to Allah becomes personal, intimate, and real. You begin to sense His nearness in ordinary moments, in the way light falls through a window, in the pause between heartbeats, in the silence after a mean. You understand that Ayat Kursi is not only about protection from external harm, but about liberation from the inner walls you built around yourself. Ibn Arabi compared this to a seed breaking its shell. The cracking feels painful, but it is the only way for life to emerge. As the verse takes root in your being, gratitude replaces fear, and clarity replaces confusion. You start to see how every breath, every delay, every loss was part of a divine arrangement meant to return you to Him. This is the expansion of the chest, the moment when the heart stops resisting what Allah sends and begins to trust His design completely. It is not a miracle that happens once. It is a process that unfolds quietly, day by day, verse by verse, until your entire being becomes spacious enough to hold peace, patience, and love all at once. That is the true gift of Ayat Kursi, not just protection from the outside world, but transformation from within. There are some people whose faces seem to shine, even when life has not been kind to them. Their eyes carry a calmness that feels ancient, and when you look into them, you sense a peace that cannot be explained. Ibn Arabi said that this light is not from the sun or the moon, but from recognition the soul, remembering the presence of the one who never leaves. When Ayat Kursi becomes part of your daily breath, this recognition awakens within you. The verse is not only protection for your body, it is illumination for your spirit. It begins to purify what you see, how you see, and even what your heart allows to enter through your sight. You start to notice beauty in places that once looked empty, lessons in pain, and signs of mercy in moments you used to call hardship. This is the light of discernment basira that Ibn Arabi called the eye of the heart. As you continue to recite Ayatul Kursi, a subtle glow begins to form inside you. It doesn't appear suddenly like a flash. It grows quietly, as if the soul is remembering how to shine. That is because Ayatul Kursi carries the vibration of divine awareness. His throne extends over the heavens and the earth. When these words move through your consciousness, it is also Zata Kors and Divai. They remind every cell of your being of its source. The darkness of confusion, fear, and forgetfulness begins to lift. The heart, which was once clouded by doubt and distraction, starts to clear. Ibn Arabi wrote that when the inner eye is polished, the light of the verse begins to reflect outward through the physical eyes. This is why the righteous carry a radiance that needs no explanation. It is not from makeup, wealth, or health, but from remembrance. Their faces become mirrors through which the divine looks upon creation. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "Whoever recites Ayatul Kursi after every prayer, nothing stands between him and paradise except death." Ibn Arabi explained that this hadith is not only a promise of the afterlife, but a description of transformation in this world. Each recitation places another layer of light upon the heart, and that light naturally spills into the eyes. It is as if the soul begins to wear the garments of eternity while still walking on earth. You may notice that people begin to feel calm around you, that strangers trust you without knowing why, that even your presence seems to soften the energy of a room. This is not a miracle for saints only, it is the natural result of carrying divine remembrance in your being. The light in the eyes is also a sign of alignment between your inner and outer worlds. Before, your eyes might have been drawn to things that distracted or drained you, but now they begin to seek meaning, not noise. You look less at appearances and more at essence. You see the wisdom behind what happens, even when it hurts. You start to look at others with compassion instead of judgment, because you realize that every soul is on a journey back to the same source. Ibn Arabi said that when Allah fills the heart with light, the eyes begin to see everything as a reflection of Him. This is not metaphor, it is a state of consciousness where the veil between the seen and the unseen grows thin. When you reach this stage, your relationship with the world changes completely. You no longer chase what shines outwardly, because you have discovered what shines within. You begin to live from a deeper awareness, guided not by fear or desire but by clarity. You walk through darkness and still see light, because the verse of the throne now lives inside you. That is what Ayatul Kursi truly does. It polishes the soul until it becomes a lantern. And when that happens, the eyes no longer just look, they witness. They witness the mercy of Allah in every sunrise, every tear, every ending, and every new beginning. That is the secret Ibn Arabi spoke of. When the heart carries the throne, the eyes begin to carry its light. One of the most extraordinary and often overlooked signs of Ayatul Kursi's power is the way it transforms the world of your dreams. Ibn Arabi often spoke of dreams as a language the soul uses to communicate with the unseen. In ordinary life, dreams can feel random, confusing, or fleeting. But for the one whose heart carries Ayatul Kursi, they become vivid messages from a realm beyond ordinary perception. You may begin to notice that your dreams no longer feel chaotic or meaningless. Instead, they carry clarity, guidance, and even warnings that gently steer your life in the direction Allah intends. It is as if the verse begins to open a door for your soul to converse with the angels, the unseen realities, and ultimately with the divine presence itself. Dreams become a bridge, connecting your conscious mind with the eternal truths that govern creation. When you recite Ayatul Kursi regularly, the vibrational essence of its words penetrates not only your waking life, but also the subtle dimensions where dreams arise. Ibn Arabi described this as the language of light, a mode of communication that transcends speech and thought. At first, you might notice small signs, a recurring symbol that suddenly makes sense, a dream that predicts events in a way that feels too precise to be coincidence. Later, the messages become deeper and more profound. You may find solutions to problems that had seemed impossible, insights into relationships, or revelations about your spiritual path appearing first in your dreams. The subconscious, which once wandered aimlessly through fear and desire, now receives instruction from the divine through this sacred verse. These dreams, however, are not for idle curiosity. Ibn Arabi emphasized that they serve a purpose: to guide, protect, and elevate the soul. They act as reminders of the unseen forces at work in your life, affirming that you are never alone and that Allah is orchestrating your path even when you cannot perceive it. You may awaken with a sense of certainty, a calm confidence that transcends logic, because the guidance received in dreams often aligns perfectly with the unfolding of real events. This alignment becomes a profound proof of Ayatul Kursi's power. It is not simply a verse to recite, but a living, active presence that communicates with your very being, in every state of consciousness. Ibn Arabi also noted that these dreams can cultivate spiritual intuition. As the subconscious mind learns to recognize the signals of the unseen, your waking decisions begin to reflect wisdom that seems beyond your normal reasoning. You start to sense danger before it arrives, opportunities before they appear, and the needs of your heart before they become urgent. Life becomes less reactive and more attuned, as though the verse has tuned your soul to the frequency of divine order. And because Ayatul Kursi is the verse of the throne, the ultimate expression of Allah's authority and care, its influence in dreams is profound. It reminds the soul that even while sleeping, you are never outside the protection and awareness of the one who sustains the heavens and the earth. Over time, the dreams that speak evolve into a dialogue between your heart and the divine. Symbols, signs, and visions become clearer, and you find yourself acting with a quiet certainty that your path is known and guided. Even ordinary dreams begin to feel sacred, carrying messages that point toward personal growth, spiritual awakening, and deep inner healing. Ibn Arabi described this stage as the soul becoming awake in sleep, where consciousness is no longer limited to the physical mind but flows seamlessly into the world of spirit. It is here, in this mystical convergence of waking and dreaming, that Ayatul Kursi reveals one of its greatest secrets. Protection is not only about keeping harm away, it is about opening the channels through which Allah speaks, teaches, and guides every moment of your life. Ultimately, the dreams that speak are a sign that your heart has begun to resonate with divine truth. They show that Ayatul Kursi is not merely a verse to recite for worldly safety, but a living force that touches every dimension of your being, body, mind, and soul. Ibn Arabi's teachings remind us that when this verse becomes alive within the heart, your nights are no longer merely a pause from life. They are a sacred space where the unseen and the seen meet, where the divine whispers, and where your soul learns to recognize the guidance that has always been there, waiting for you to listen. The culmination of Ayatul Kursi's transformative power, as described by Ibn Arabi, is the profound and subtle return to Tawheed, the awareness of divine oneness. This is not merely an intellectual understanding that Allah is one. It is an immersive, soul-deep realization that the entirety of existence, seen and unseen, breathes through Him alone. It is the final stage in the journey of the heart that begins with reciting this verse. A stage where the heart no longer clings to separation, duality, or the illusion of control. For those who have walked the path of Ayatul Kursi, the world begins to appear not as a collection of disconnected events, people, or objects, but as a seamless tapestry woven with the threads of divine will. Every joy, every trial, every whisper of inspiration becomes a reflection of the one who encompasses all realities. Ibn Arabi described this state as the witness of the heart seeing the one in everything. A consciousness in which the soul perceives the signs of Allah not as external phenomena, but as intrinsic to every moment, every breath, and every living being. In this stage, the seeker experiences a radical shift in perception. The illusions that once dominated life, the illusions of control, permanence, and personal achievement begin to dissolve. Ayat Kursi, recited with awareness, opens the heart to the presence of the all-hearing, the all-knowing, and the self-subsisting. The words of the verse, "His throne extends over the heavens and the earth, and he feels no fatigue in guarding and preserving them," cease to be abstract statements. They become a living reality within the heart. The believer begins to see that the separation between themselves and creation is illusory. They no longer act merely out of ego, fear, or desire. Their actions become a reflection of divine presence. Even the simplest tasks, breathing, walking, speaking, are now infused with a sense of sacredness because they are recognized as part of the One's all-encompassing will. Ibn Arabi emphasized that this realization is not sudden but gradual. Initially, it begins as moments of recognition, fleeting flashes where the heart feels attuned to something far greater than itself. Perhaps it is a sudden understanding in prayer, a moment of awe at the vastness of the sky, or a profound connection with another soul. These flashes expand with consistent recitation, reflection, and mindfulness of Ayatul Kursi. The verse is like a seed planted in the soil of the heart. With time, attention, and devotion, it grows into a tree whose branches reach into every aspect of life. The seeker begins to experience a state of inner harmony, where the mind no longer rebels against the heart, and the heart no longer seeks outside validation. This harmony is the first true glimpse of living in accordance with Tawheed, where the One's presence saturates every perception. As the heart continues to immerse itself in the meanings of the verse, the return to oneness deepens. The seeker notices a subtle but profound shift in relationships, priorities, and perspective. Material possessions, fleeting successes, and the pursuit of worldly approval no longer dominate the consciousness. They are understood as transitory and secondary. The soul begins to find its contentment not in accumulation, but in alignment with the divine order. Every challenge is seen as a message, every separation as a lesson, and every blessing as a sign of mercy. Ibn Arabi teaches that this is the essence of the divine unveiling, Kashf, the moment when the veil between the servant and the throne thins, and the soul starts to recognize its origin and purpose in every aspect of existence. Moreover, this stage brings with it a transformative ethical and emotional shift. The believer's interactions with others change because they begin to perceive the divine spark within every being. Compassion, patience, and humility become natural responses rather than forced virtues. Anger and envy lose their hold because the heart comprehends that every soul is on its unique path within the tapestry of Allah's design. Even in hardship, the believer remains anchored in the certainty that all things are governed by divine wisdom. Ibn Arabi described this as the heart's liberation, a state in which it no longer resists the will of Allah, but flows with it effortlessly, like water returning to the sea. The recitation of Ayatul Kursi becomes not just a practice, but a continuous rhythm of surrender and recognition, a constant reminder that there is no power, protection, or presence outside of him. At this ultimate stage, the line between the seeker and the divine begins to blur in the most profound sense. Not in the sense of merging and losing self, but in the sense of complete alignment and witness. The heart sees the world as a manifestation of Allah's mercy, justice, and wisdom. Every sound, every light, every encounter becomes a mirror reflecting the One. This is the true return to Tawheed, a living, breathing realization that the universe is not separate from the Creator, and that the journey of the soul is a journey back to Him. Ibn Arabi described it as standing beneath the throne while still walking on earth, a state of awareness where nothing is outside His dominion and everything is within His care. Finally, this stage brings peace unlike any other. The fear of death, loss, or uncertainty no longer dominates the heart. The seeker rests in the understanding that existence itself is sustained by Allah's will, and that every moment, whether of joy or trial, is part of a perfect, infinite design. The light of Ayatul Kursi illuminates the soul, guiding it toward this ultimate realization, and in doing so, transforms ordinary life into a continuous reflection of divine presence. Those who reach this stage do not merely recite a verse, they live it, breathe it, and witness it in every heartbeat, every glance, every thought. It is the secret Ibn Arabi revealed, that true spiritual freedom and eternal peace are found in the complete return to Tawheed, in recognizing and living within the oneness that pervades all things, where the verse of the throne no longer belongs only to Scripture, but becomes a living reality inside the soul. Now that you understand the hidden power of Ayat Kursi, it's time to bring its light into your life. Remember, these 7 signs: the silence, the pull of the night, the unseen shield, the expansion of the heart, the light in the eyes, the dreams that speak, and the return to oneness are not just stories, they are experiences waiting to awaken within you if you open your heart. Recite this verse with presence, not just with your tongue. Feel it in your breath, in your heart, and let it guide your steps. Ibn Arabi reminded us that the throne of Allah is closer than we think, and Ayat Kursi is the key to stepping into that divine presence. Tonight, let it begin. Let it transform your soul, protect your path, and illuminate every moment of your life. If this video moved you, share it with someone who needs this guidance. And don't forget to subscribe for more hidden Sufi wisdom that can change the way you see the world.